Hello and welcome to another episode of Demystifying Hindu Philosophy, Mythology and Rituals. In each of this episode, I will be talking about a particular story or a ritual, and we will discuss the deeper meaning behind these stories. Our Vedic sages have given us stories with a very high density of information because they knew that not everybody would be able to understand the deep principle and concepts of cosmology and self-realization. So they've built these colorful narratives which can be enjoyed by everybody, no matter which level of awareness we are in. And even those who have a devotional bent of mind, that may be enough. But then there are some of us who have an intellectual bent of mind and would prefer to go on the Jnana Marga, the path of wisdom, and understand the deeper meaning behind these stories. So the Vedic sages have actually carefully chosen words and imagery to and left very vital clues to decode these clues for us, these imagery and words for us. So the ultimate goal of Vedanta, Upanishads, Puranas is moksha. Moksha meaning liberation. Liberation from what? Liberation from this cycle of birth and death. And why would we even want to be liberated from this cycle of birth and death? Because it keeps us tied to a lower dimension of existence. And when we are liberated, we get established, we move away from, get away from our wrong identifications with our mind and body, and we get established in our true self, which is the pure supreme consciousness, which we in Hinduism is very well known as Aham Brahmasmi. So what is the biggest obstacle to moksha or liberation? It is ignorance, avidya. And that ignorance is our identification with our body, physical body, our sense organs, information from our sense organs, and our mind and intellect. So once we disidentify ourselves from that, we can establish ourselves and in our true self, which is the pure supreme consciousness. So today I will like to talk about a story from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have 18 Puranas, and Srimad Bhagavatam is is known to be the most popular Purana. And this is a story about that would give us a sense of how to proceed towards evolve spiritually, how to go through emotional, psychological, spiritual empowerment, one step at a time, one truth at a time, depending upon our current level of awareness and effort. So then there are these 4 sons of Brahma called the Manasputra, or mental sons. And it is important, every word here and every imagery has been chosen with careful thought. They are called mental sons, Manasputra, because Brahma is, remember, the creative principle, and it creates both matter and thoughts. So matter, the sons of Brahma that are involved in the creation of the universe, that involves the creation of the phenomenal world. But these sons of Brahma, the Manasputras, the mental sons, they refuse to be involved in the procreation of the material world, a phenomenal world, and instead decided to devote themselves to self-realization through worshipping Shiva and Vishnu. So as it so happens, these 4 sons of Brahma, the sages, they are Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana and Sanat Kumara. They decided to visit Vishnu in his abode called Vaikuntha. Now, to go to Vaikuntha, they had to pass through an enchanted forest or orchard called the Naisreyasa or Kaivalya. And this orchard had beautiful, it were fruits and flowers and streams, and it was a smorgasbord of temptation for all our senses. But these sages had no problem crossing through these for enchanted forest, and did not get distracted by the fruits, the flowers, the smells, the birds, the streams, and reached the and then they cross this abode Vaikuntha of Lord Vishnu has 7 ramparts. So they were able to cross the 6 ramparts without any distraction, without any problem. But when they came to the final rampart, which is the 7th one, they were met by the gatekeepers of Vishnu called Jai and Vijay. And these sages were actually looked like they are 5-year-old boys, and they were completely naked. They didn't have any clothes on. So they were rudely stopped by Vishnu's gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay, who made fun of them and said, "No, you cannot enter the abode of Lord in this form. You're not even properly clothed." At which point the sages got very upset, and they cursed Jai and Vijay to be banished from Vaikuntha, and said, "You do not, you still make a difference. Your eyes are at a level of duality. You are trying to, you see separateness." And so they were cursed to be born on the earthly plane in Bhuloka as a pair of demons for 3 lifetimes. And hence Jai and Vijay were actually, we will discuss them at some point later on, were born on the Bhuloka as initially as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, then as Kumbhakarna and Ravana, and finally as Sishupala and Dantavaktra. And these have very deep significance. We'll come back to it later. At which point, the minute the sages cursed Jai Vijay to be banished from Vaikuntha, immediately the Lord appeared in front of them, Lord Vishnu. And the sages were ecstatic, and they worshipped Lord Vishnu, and they were felt fulfilled. Now let's back up a little bit and look at the wealth of information, the path and steps that have been hidden in plain sight for any spiritual aspirant. Now, to begin with, these 4 sages looked like they were 5-year-old boys, and they were naked. Such an odd thing, you would think, why these details? Now, what does a 5-year-old symbolize? A child. And what is the significance of a child? The beauty of innocence, that ability to receive, and the power of faith. A 5-year-old can believe in anything. You can't tell them that this is not possible, that is not possible, and the innocence of it. So a spiritual aspirant needs to cultivate that innocence, that deconditioning of what is possible, what is not possible. And the significance of being naked is, like we said, we identify ourselves with the wrong equipments like body and our sense organs, our mind, our intellect. To be able to experience the pure supreme consciousness, we have to let go of all our identifications with our body, with our mind, with our intellect. And that is why we have to be naked before the God. And that is further strengthened by the reference to this enchanted forest, which is Kaivalya or Naisrayasa, which means liberation. Liberation from what? Because there were all kinds of temptations, delicious fruit, beautiful flowers, fragrance, stream, and a bird chirping. But the sages were not distracted by that. So the first 6 and then there were 7 ramparts that encircle the abode of Lord Vishnu, which is Vaikuntha. What are these 7 ramparts? The 7 ramparts are the 5 sense organs, 6th one is the mind, and 7th one is the intellect. So these sages had no trouble going through the Naisrayasa forest or Kaivalya forest and the first 6 ramparts, because through their sadhana, through their tapasya, it is possible, easier to overcome or transcend our five senses and our mind. But when they came to the seventh rampart, that is the intellect. It is a very difficult identification to transcend and overcome. And that is why there were these two gatekeepers, Jaya, Vijay, that represent Raga and Dvesha, that is craving, attachment, and Dvesha is aversion. So at the level of the intellect, where the ego functions, it's the strongest. That's where to overcome our cravings and our aversions, which are deeply related to our vasanas from various lifetimes, is not that easy. But the minute we, the sages, with no hesitation, banished or removed this raga dvesha, immediately the Lord presented himself in front of them, meaning the spiritual aspirant can become one with the God, or have the realization, God realization, when we are able to finally overcome our intellect with its raga and dvesha, which is attachment and craving. Now, let us also back up and go through some of the decoding process here. So like I said, these Manas Putras, because only the mind can go through this self-realization. We cannot take the body with it. And when they went through the Naisrayasa orchard, or the Kaivalya, which is liberation, so it is possible to transcend the sense organs and to transcend even the mind, but intellect requires a little more work. So, and then the seven ramparts, which is the five sense organs, the mind, and the intellect. So we have to overcome these seven obstacles to be able to realize our true self, which is Lord Vishnu, which is pure supreme consciousness. And on the path, we need to have the innocence of a child. Look, if you look at any of the many of the famous stories, starting with Narnia and Chronicles of Narnia, only the youngest child was able to see Aslan the lion, because once you have faith and you don't have doubt, you'd be able to overcome tremendous obstacles. And them being naked, meaning that we have to disrobe ourselves from our identifications with our physical body, our meaning, are we, how we look, and then our sense organs, what we hear, what we smell, what we see, and finally our mind, and then the intellect, which is the ego, which is the cravings and the aversion. And when, when the sages banished Jaya Vijay to be born as in three successive lifetimes as asuras, it's very important there also, because we will discuss that in other videos, where Hiranyaksha, and they were always came as a couple, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The two avatars of Vishnu was born to take care of these two asuras. Hiranyaksha, to get rid of Hiranyaksha, Vishnu had to take the Kurma avatara, the Varaha avatara. And to get rid of the Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu had to take the Narasimha avatara, and we'll deal with that at length later. Then Rama had to get rid of, destroy Kumbhakarna and Ravana, and then Krishna had to get rid of Sishupala and Dantavaktra. And these are both, these twins of demons or asuras, signify our tamasic and our rajasic instinct, this gunas. And only when we confront these tamasic and rajasic gunas are we able to get liberation and come back to Vaikuntha, which is become one with the Lord. And that is something for us to think about, that we need to take our mind into first of all, there has to be that intention, the focus has to be to go towards self-realization, and there are steps to it. It is not immediately, we cannot do that. First of all, we have to think of the Kurma Avatara, where like a tortoise we have to withdraw our information from our sense organs, and then we have to think of the Varaha Avatara, where we go within. Once we withdraw the information or stimuli from the outside world, then we have to go within and do the work to be able to find out that intellect, that final rampart, which is signified, symbolized by Hiranyakashipu, the ego, the intellect. And for that, Vishnu had to take the Narasimha Avatara, and we'll discuss all this in detail later on. So only when we are able to overcome the final rampart, the final obstacle of raga, dvesha, which is craving and aversion, will we be able to experience this pure supreme consciousness. So I hope that you have some information to mull over, think about. If you are planning or interested in a spiritual path, there are very powerful messages here that you'd want to think about. And as always, if you like these stories, please give a thumbs up to this video. Please subscribe to the my YouTube channel, to encourage and inspire me to make more of these videos, and for you to be notified as soon as I upload one of these videos. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you. Until we meet again, please take care.